has had a productive morning so far. And now we're going to be talking through, I think, what is probably the most used term today, which is the Web3 revolution for both brands and consumers. I think if we look at this ever-evolving digital landscape, the transition from Web 2 to Web 3 has really captured the imagination of brands and consumers alike. But what does this transformation actually mean on both sides of the equation? I'm very privileged to be here with an illustrious international panel of experts. We're going to be dissecting this topic a little bit, but before we get into the meat of the topic, I'd love to invite each of them to introduce themselves.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rachel. Hello, everybody. My name is Sinem Cantürk. I am from KPMG, Türkiye. I am the head of blockchain, fintech, and digital finance solutions in KPMG, Türkiye. We deliver or perform some consultancy projects to the companies in their Web3 journeys, starting from strategy, building up their products, services, and the implementation phase.
Hi, my name is Helgosson. I'm currently at PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, the football club. I've been in the blockchain ecosystem since 2015. I'm an original crypto, now we're talking Web3. Super fan, really. I'm super happy that brands like PSG and others are now walking into this space.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Liu, the head of product for Amazon Web3 services. And at Amazon, we are focusing on making it easier to build with blockchain. I've been in the blockchain space for about 6 years now. And prior to that, I spent 17 years in traditional finance, which are now friends of cryptocurrency.
I think we have a lot of people from that space here today. John, I'd love to start with you. So Web3 is being heralded as the innovation that's going to transform customer experience. This has been the obsession of Amazon. I'd love to get your perspective on where you think we are with Web3 development from a business perspective.
Yeah, I think Web3 actually is exactly where it needs to be, right? And despite all the news of people saying, wow, you know, there was a fad in 2021 and it's all gone away, what I actually like to see and emphasize is in 2021, what we learned was how quickly brands could move into the space provided that there's a proper market fit. Like literally in a span of 6 to 8 months, all the major media companies, entertainment companies, sports companies, launched something to do with Web3. However, just like early experiments in any new technology, I think there are some use cases that worked and some that didn't. And so here we are a year later, learning what actually works in Web3. And you see it in the form of this, consumer engagement. It's a new way for brands to actually engage with consumers when they offer ongoing utility. Right? And ongoing utility means there's this ongoing value. It's not just a once buy and done thing. Right? And likewise, when you think about the other ownership, fractional ownership, people like to talk about that, that absolutely is becoming a reality with certain loyalty tokens now being offered, where people can not just own a part of what they contribute, like what they purchase, they can actually see it evolve in real time, and other brands can build on it. So I'm very excited by what the new brands are actually coming out these days.
Thank you. Talking about product market fit, we've seen sports brands embrace Web3 faster than any other industry. What do you think is the main driving force behind that, and what are the behaviors that fans are, and how are they responding?
I think that sports brands and sports clubs has something fairly unique, and that is we talk about fans, whereas most companies and brands talks about customers. And this is something that will mean something for some of you, but this is, I think, is the key why sports is what's next in the ecosystem, what's next Web3, because when you transact, and I say this in all panels really, you become a customer. Before, in between transactions and after, you're a fan. And so I think that's the key. We have a fantastic fan team over at PSG. And this is one way to do that more and better. So it's really not about Web3, it's the outcome it can provide for the fan engagement team, for the brand team. And I do think that for PSG being the youngest club, we also have the youngest audience. And so our fan base is already here. They're mobile, they're global, they play games. They're everything VR, AR, XR, and wanting to own that, prove that, is something they already do. And so I think it's for us to build that bridge. So I think that's why that match is it's such a great product market match.
You know, we're talking a lot about mass fan adoption, you know, over the course of these 2 days. Like, what are obstacles that you're experiencing to that broader fan adoption?
I think there are a couple. To piggyback the previous panels, we talk a lot about security as being key. I think when we talk as a brand and as a club, it's about trust. You can be secure. It doesn't mean that they feel trust. And I do think that this is, again, one of the key things that why PSG is so successful, because when we engage, I believe that customers' revenues and transactions, fan engagement is trust and knowing and speaking and listening and interacting. And I think this is together, of course, what's next. But I do think that that's, you know, one of the keys. I think also one of the risks is everybody wants to make money, right? And I do think that if you have millions, as we have hundreds of millions of fans, you can't just do the money engagement, the transactional thing. You can't do it on the back of the fans. You have to do it in the service of the fans and with the fans and co-create with the fans moving forward, because this is what Web3 allows us to do. And I do think that that is so much more important moving forward than most people think. And so I think if you can, that's a good way to start. In the service of the fans, with the fans, engaging the fans, not only monetizing the fans. So build the communities in your fan base, because you have more than one, you have a couple. And then you engage them differently. And then you explore, and then you monetize. You can't start with monetization. Well, you can, but it's probably not the recommendation.
Yeah, that's a big topic about monetization in this space. Sinem, from your vantage point, you know, you're working with a lot of Web2 brands. You're advising them in this area. What do you think is going to be the implications of Web3 adoption for the future of those digital interactions?
Thank you, Rachel. First of all, let me start by analyzing the current environment, like John did. Because when we look at the ecosystem, we see a lot of use cases in all of the sectors. I mean, we see NFT projects, we see brand integration, we see some projects in the supply chain management or finance operations or ESG side. And we see that the consumers are trying to find ways of adapting Web3 technologies into their current environment or into their current processes. We can see the transition. The transition is here. We can see it. We can feel it. We can even sometimes use it or touch it. But we are sure, or we are seeing that the transition will take some time and some effort, because still there are so many challenges and still there are so many barriers or resistance in the environment. For example, we can say that there is not enough clear regulation framework yet. So this is a very big challenge in front of the investors or in front of the consumer or in front of the brands maybe. And there is so much volatility in the crypto exchange side. So again, this is a very big challenge for us, or this is a very big barrier in front of the consumers to invest it or not. For example, there is not enough education or there is not enough know-how. We do not understand all of the use cases in the market. We cannot understand the risks, or we cannot identify the actions that need to be taken to avoid those risks. So I'm sure that we can say that we are just in the early stage of the adoption. And it's going to take some time for the ecosystem, for the full adoption side. And we have to take some serious actions. And when I say we, I think we as the developers, or we as the consumer side, or we as the brands should take some actions for the full adoption side.
Fantastic. While there's definitely delays, what I am seeing is that every single one of my colleagues or friends who works in Web 2 is obsessed and hungry for a Web 3 strategy. I'd love to get your perspective on what do you think the part of the driving forces are behind that and what's propelling it forward?
I think there are a couple different ones for everyone, but what I generally think should and can be for all of them is all of the brands and clubs wants to build and control a direct relationship with your customer and with your fan base. Web3 has arrived to enable you to do that. And it also, at the same time, allows the fans to own a part of the experience, a part of the club, a part of the merch. They can prove things. And as they do, we as a club, we can track that. We can uniquely see you and you and you in the sea of hundreds of millions of fans. And we can reward and engage you differently based on the type of fan you are, if you're in Paris, or if you come and visit, or if you're only going to be somewhere else in the world. We have many countries in the world where we have more fans in that country than we have in France. And so how are we going to engage them in different ways moving forward? By engaging them where they're at, playing games, doing VR, AR stuff, owning things, buying V-Bucks or similar things. I mean, they want to buy and own and prove this experience and show it off. I bought stickers when I was young. We talked about Web3, I was a Web 1 guy. Then we talked about Web 2, now we talk about Web 3. But it's the same mechanisms, I think, that drives it.
Sinem, sports has always been, like, they move faster in this space. Yes. We've witnessed that over the last few years. Many of my friends in sports called it the gold rush. How are companies beyond that you're working with beyond sports? Like, how are they evolving to these consumer preferences? Are they moving as fast as the likes of PSG?
I think every big change is driven by a customer need or a customer expectation or a problem. And the situation is pretty much the same in the transformative journey from Web 2 to Web 3. Now the consumers are looking for more transparency, more privacy, or more seamless solutions, more smooth customer experiences, or more control over their personal data. So I think there's a huge hunger for the Web3 technologies because Web3 technologies can be a solution for all of these new needs or expectations. The need is coming from the customer side, so I think there is a huge hunger for Web3 technologies. Maybe I can give some examples related with the issues and how Web3 can be a solution to them. For example, we are saying that we want more data privacy, and now the transactions over the chain can be anonymous. So yes, we can have more privacy. We said that we like to have more transparency. Yes, the data is over the blockchain, so we have transparency for all parties. In finance world, we are saying that we do not want man in the middles, or we do not want any centralized authority. And in DeFi, we don't have any centralized authority to rely to. So yes, Web3 can be a solution to most of the problems in the new technology side. So taking all of these customer expectations or needs into account, I can say that there will be a huge transformation from Web 2 to Web 3 because the need is, or let's say the journey is driven by the customer need. So I think the transition will be inevitable and unstoppable.
John, as a hardcore Amazon loyalist, and you've set what are a lot of the expectations we didn't even know we had around UI and UX. Like, how are you ensuring that you are creating an even more superior service using Web3?
So when you think about UI UX, there are actually two fronts to the UI UX, right? There's the UI UX that consumers or end business users face, and that's all about seamless wallet creations. You know, how can I just sign on and buy something, and all of a sudden I'm already transacting with NFTs without knowing about it? We have lots of companies that are building on AWS today that already focused on that, doing a wonderful job of streamlining that process. There's the other side of UI UX as well, which is the builder's UI UX, which is the part that I focus on a lot, right? And while blockchain technology itself has gone leaps and bounds as far as enabling simplicity, scalability, transparency, privacy, all of that, builders are still forced to work closer to the technology than they are with traditional technology methods. What does that mean? In order to transact on a blockchain, you need to run a bunch of nodes, not run a bunch of servers. And that's just undifferentiated lift that most builders don't want to learn about. Likewise, as the big enterprise companies are coming into this space, not only do they need to access the blockchain technology, they need to do that with the enterprise scalability behind that and operational excellence. Again, that's what we're doing here at AWS, to put that wrapper around it so that the builder UX on that front is much better. And one important part that all the use cases we're talking about today relies on is the data that's on the blockchain, right? People think the data on the blockchain is there, it's transparent, it must be easy to get. In a way that's true, you can always plug in and get the full history of data. But it's also misleading because for people to get the insights from that data is actually quite challenging. You have to run nodes, you have to do a bunch of data transformations, you have to actually parse information, basically get information from different sources, including the smart contracts themselves. Again, that's just not differentiated, right? And enterprises need us to deliver that type of data with sub-second latency. So that's another UX, UI that we want to focus on and help.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's definitely, data is one fuel, but you need to be able to understand how to put it to work. It's the hardest thing.
Very quickly into the applications, right?
Exactly, in order to keep that pace of change. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit because obviously, you know, we spoke earlier about like brands from Starbucks to Gucci, you know, rushing into Web3. What do you think are the implications for future products and services that we're going to see in this space?
So I think these are great examples where Starbucks, whatever you do with Starbucks, you're going to have a digital asset being a part of that membership. You can and will be rewarded if you want to. You're not forced to. You don't have to think about a seed phrase or a wallet address or connect your wallet. It's simply a part of the experience. And I think that's one of the key things. No matter if you register with PSG becoming a fan and a member, and no matter if you buy a merchandise, you should be able to scan it, NFC, NFT, tag it, if you will. And as you keep building on this engagements, you're coming to the stadium, you're buying a ticket, you're traveling to see the team. Whatever that is, I think thinking about it like Lego, like just keep adding on it. I think that's the way moving forward, I guess. And all the fan touch points, all the channels, all the market and engagement places, if you will, sooner or later. It's a multi-year strategy and engagement, of course, right?
Fantastic. Sinem, I'm so interested. You know, consultants of the past and advisory, you know, you've been responsible for dictating the change. This is happening at an unparalleled pace. How are KPMG evolving products and service suite in line with meeting their B2B customer expectations?
We are trying to give some advisory services to the ecosystem to find new products or new services that they can embed to their current processes. But while we are trying to do that consultancy services, we are saying to our clients that there is no limit for the products or services. I mean, you can do whatever you like. For example, you can build up a social network platform, or you can build up a loyalty program, or you can try to integrate a decentralized finance program, decentralized finance platform with your current system, and so on. The list can go on endlessly. But I think you need to start by asking some key questions to yourself while you are trying to develop some new ideas or some new products. For example, how can I deliver more secure services to my clients? Because security is a critical success factor, so you need to start by asking some key questions. More secure services, or how can I differentiate myself in front of the customers? How can I position myself in a more smooth way? How can I increase the customer expectations, or how can I increase the customer journey more smoothly, like someone? Or what kind of integrations can I make with a DeFi platform so that I can include financial operations into my current processes? So we are telling to the companies that there is not an easy way to do so. I mean, I cannot tell you the easiest way to find the right solution or to find the right service, but you can start to ask some key questions to yourself, and you can try to understand the key success factors so that you can build up your own strategy. Because Par gave some examples and tell that PSG has a Web3 strategy, I'm sure. But we cannot say that another Turkish team, I mean a sports team, should have the same Web3 strategy. It should be different from each other because the strategy should be depending on the customer profile, should be depending on your business, on your vision, on your aim, or on your personal design strategy. So this is the message that we are trying to give to our clients, and these are the main ideas or the main goals that we are trying to achieve while delivering consultancy projects with them.
John, once you're finished that discovery stage of identifying what's right, like considering this pace of change and how fast Web3 platforms are evolving, like how do we encourage, how do we make it easier for businesses to truly integrate these new technologies?
It always helps to have the use cases of success out there already. That's why you have the major brand names that are coming into the space, whether it's going to be the Nikes, Adidas, the sports companies, right? They're laying out almost a blueprint of what works, right? So you know you have to do community engagement. You know you have to have long-term value. And you know you have to have that type of bigger thinking than just once and done, right? But the important part to pair with that use case is to educate them on what the principles are of Web3, right? And it's not just a buzzword. It's like, okay, great. If you want to engage more deeply with consumers, here are a few ways that you can do it. If you want to collaborate more with other brands, here's how you should be thinking about it. And then you can now start focusing on what's customized for you. So you work back from the customers. What's your end goal of what you're trying to do? And now you can shape your way through all the different technology solutions underneath. That's always the last layer that you add to, right? It's always, great, what's successful out there? What are you trying to do? What are the principles? And let's figure out a way to get you there with the technology.
I'd love to stay on you for a moment. This is a topic we touched on earlier on, but Web3 platforms have been criticized for often being too complex. For non-technical users. You know, it's probably the greatest battleground we're entering into now in our path to mass adoption. How can we improve that user experience?
You're seeing the improvements today. I'm sure earlier in some of the talks, people talk about abstraction or some. Basically, it's a complicated way of just saying, how can I seamlessly create user wallets? That's been the biggest point of friction, right? Because you talk to people and they're like, wow, I have to go and create user wallets. I have to manage my private keys. Nobody wants to do that, right? So some of these technologies are already coming into place, whether it's at the protocol level with new standards, or whether it's on the actual companies that are building tooling to make it simpler. So the first step is to get rid of that user friction. The second step we're starting to see as some of these big brand companies do as well is don't focus on the fact that it's a digital, collectible, NFT, something behind it. It's just, hey, you want to buy this brand that you trust? You know, we've been making clothes, you've been watching us play games for the longest time. This is just another way for you to get further engaged with a brand that you already know and trust. Right? That's a huge way. Let's just stop talking about the technology itself. You know, people don't talk about, I run the most powerful AWS server when they're serving, when they're talking to like the Netflix users, right? They talk about what type of movies they want to watch. So.
In the last couple of minutes, I'd love to ask each of you the same two questions, if that's possible. You know, you've got Web 2 people in this room, and you've got majority Web 3 who are speaking to a lot of Web 2. Like, how would you encourage Web 2 brands in the room to experiment and invite more of a culture of innovation in Web 3 into their work environment?
So I think no matter where you are and where the company is going, that's what you need to understand. And everybody asks me, what's the Web3 strategy? Well, it's the way to accelerate or complement or enhance the company strategy. Whatever the company strategy goal is, that is my role with what I know and my experience to help accelerate and get there faster or better or whatever that is. And I do think that, like you say, it's not about the tech. That's just an enabler. Just like NFT, up until now, was the thing you monetize. We look at it as a way to engage. It's the way to get there. It's the way. It's utility, right? It's the tool. It's not the end game. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And I do think that exploring and trying things out is key. You can only, what you need to do, educate and train. But until they try things out, until you show them, until you do small experiments, people don't get it. And so you need to do that. On the other side, I also think that a lot of clubs and brands has done things once in a while, or once and never came back. And I think the difference with a lot of brands is engaging in this now, what took internet 30 years, is going to take this 5-10 years. And so you got to iterate and be fast and learn. So risk, you asked me about risk. Well, risk is really learning or training. If you see it as risk, I think it's going to be harder. If you see it as we're exploring and learning and understanding customer segments within our fan base, building different communities around that, exploring different products and services and how to engage that and look at that data and iterate, being better. I think coming from a tech play, how tech companies build products, I think is one way to actually do that. And to be honest, you kind of need to hire and build internal resources and teams that can not only try to build you from the bottom up, but kind of needs to pull you from the future into it. And so I think you need to focus and dedicate resources and people to this.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of companies in my former advising where they enter into the space without the right resources, and it just creates too many blockers. Sinem, I'd love your perspective on that.
Same question, sure. I think we usually call the word transition from Web 2 to Web 3, but in my opinion, maybe we should call it revolution. Because every revolution comes with its barriers, every revolution comes with its risk or challenges or resistance, but on the other hand, every revolution comes with its opportunities. I think it's better to focus on the opportunity side, not the challenges side, because maybe today we are facing a very significant issue, but tomorrow that significant issue will gonna be very insignificant. We don't know. So let's focus on the opportunity side, and of course we should talk about the challenges, but just talk about the challenges and hope that they are gonna be insignificant tomorrow.
I'd love your perspective.
Oh, is it me to wrap up on that question? Well, I don't want to repeat a lot of what's already been said, but I do want to emphasize the center of excellence that you had mentioned a lot, right? Of course, there's education, but there's also the internal expertise that needs to be developed now. Now, unlike the early days of blockchain, where it was very hard to source specialists in blockchain engineering, thankfully, the technology's matured now where you have qualified engineers, right? You should be hiring them and bringing them into your organizations and experimenting internally. And there's technology advanced now in a sense where you can protect your experimentation if you want to keep them private, right? Don't want anyone else to know what you're doing. Blockchain technology has ways to enable that today already. It wasn't that way in the early years. The space is as ripe as any for new companies to come in. There's better tooling, we can always do better. There's clearer regulations that are coming into this space. And there's a lot better underlying blockchain technology for that scalability, transparency, and privacy. It's just a matter of you got to go in there and experiment, and don't give up after one try, right? No one, like Gen AI I like to fall back on this one. No one tried Gen AI or machine learning once, like 9 years ago, and they're like, well, it didn't work. My data's not ready. The computer's not fast enough. We're not coming into machine learning anymore. No, the companies that succeeded kept on trying, kept on building. And today, like 6 months, we suddenly have this use case that's emerged. And that's what I think is going to happen with Web3 as well. Continued experimentation, development into infrastructure. Who knows when it's going to happen? But when it does happen, it's going to be fast.
I think we all can agree that there's been significant progress made in recent years, but it's still a long journey ahead of us to get to the levels of brand and consumer adoption that we'd all like to see. I think gratefully we're in a room and at a conference where we're hopefully going to see a lot of outcomes. So I'd just like to say on that point a big thank you to the panelists for joining and for sharing your perspectives.
Thank you.
Thank you.